My name is Chris, and I have a sobriety date of January 28th, 2018. I kind of grew up between here and Mexico, so I grew up in Anaheim and then in Morelia, Michoacan. When I was 3 months old, my parents split. I remember that my grandma had a house down there. She told my mom, well, you know, I'll take the kid while you get everything together, finalize the divorce, you know, there was that split going on. So I spent pretty much my developmental years down there. I even went to kindergarten down there. So I just have a love for the culture. You know, when I was in first grade, I came back to do school over here. And it was tough. Like, I had to be in ESL for a while, but I got it pretty quick. You know, like my aunt, my uncle, they lived down there with us. So, you know, they taught me English. But I just remember just kind of, you know, like just dealing with the culture here was different. You know, kids would bully me, you know, so I'd always feel like kind of like a little bit out of place, like a bit of an outsider. And I would still go to back down to Mexico to stay with my grandma like every summer. So I still love that, you know, and I had that growing up. Just being out here, I think just not having my dad around. You know, my mom, she was kind of busy with work and, you know, she was kind of doing her own thing too at times. So, and I'm an only child, like I grew up an only child, so I didn't have any siblings or anybody really around. Just spent a lot of time just in my head as a kid, trying to entertain myself with whatever, you know, video games or sports or anything I could, just, you know, around the neighborhood, just hanging out with the guys there. Like there was these one shirts that were like Bad Boys or something like that, and they had like these crazy dogs. I always wanted one, but my mom said that no, those are for gangbangers, like it's gangbanger clothes, you can't wear it. So when I finally got like to an age where I could make my own decisions, I don't know, I just went crazy. I wanted to experience that whole lifestyle that I never got a chance to. When I turned 11, I got sent back to Mexico to go to like a private school down there. I just went crazy. Like I had so much freedom then because it was just my grandma, you know. I was always hanging out with my friends, so that's when I started drinking. It's funny, I started with like wine coolers, and that was the thing. We'd go down to the track and take our wine coolers, and then it turned into like a bottle of like tequila liqueur, and we were always hanging out by like the railroad tracks. There was like a river, it was crazy. And then I started doing bad in school, like my grades started failing, and just teachers were always calling because I was always ditching school. So they started calling the house, and my grandma didn't know what to do with me. So my mom says, well, put him in military school. So I came back over here and I went to a military school in Anaheim. It was cool, like I liked it. I remember there was a structure that I had there, but it was all boys, you know, so we were still just like going crazy, but I wasn't doing any drugs then or anything like that. And I was just kind of like, just hanging out with my friends and just being wild, you know, like, but like in an innocent way, I would say. I mean, however innocent a 14-year-old kid can be. Like we kind of grew up poor with my mom, and then my brother, who's actually like my cousin, kind of adopted him, and then like all kinds of other siblings started living with us. So we were like in a 1-bedroom, just kind of living there. And all these schools, like my dad had money, so he had paid for everything. So it was just kind of weird. Like same thing, I felt out of place, you know what I mean? Like who am I? Like kids all roll up in their BMWs and I'm getting dropped off. But you know, my grades weren't bad, and you know, I was doing okay in school. I was playing a lot of sports and just trying to get involved in whatever I could, musically or just, you know, with writing, whatever, just trying to find my place, just stuff I was interested in. That was pretty cool. But there, I don't know, just the high school years, and I felt really out of place. And then since my mom had to work early, like I was always like on the bus and always on the street. So that's when I really started falling into just kind of like not coming home. And I think that's in high school is when the drug use really started progressing. So sophomore year, I started getting into marijuana and just smoking cigarettes like consistently. And when I started smoking weed, it just became like a thing for me, you know, like I really, really just enjoyed it. Come junior year, I'm like smoking weed every day, drinking with my friends and going out to parties. I got kicked out of school because I was selling to some of the kids there. And it's funny, like I always say I got kicked out, but I remember that they gave me a chance to come back, but they told me you're gonna be consistently drug tested. And I didn't want that because I knew I kept wanting to live that lifestyle I wanted, you know? So I just said, yeah, just kick me out, I don't care. And that's when everything just really kind of spiraled out of control. From weed, it progressed to drinking alcohol, doing cocaine. And then from cocaine, I would just try like anything. Like I remember doing triple C's, we would do acid, even like grinding up like Morning Glory seeds, like we'd boil them and like put them in our yogurt. It was like weirdness, you know? So if it was gonna get you high, like I wanted to try it, you know? So in the continuation school, I met a couple of guys, they were in a band, you know, and I I played bass at the time, so you know, I joined the band, but they were just hardcore tweakers, you know. And it's funny, like when I was like in school going to parties, every time in the corner there'd be like a group of tweakers, and I'd always like look down on them like, man, I'm never gonna touch that. That's such a dirty drug. And like the addict mind is so crazy. Like I realize that now, that when I finally was hanging out with one of the guys and he pulled out a meth pipe, he hit it, my addict mind said, why don't you try it so that you can say with confidence that that is the dirtiest drug in the world. And oh man, dude, I was hooked. The energy, you know what I mean? The inspiration that came with it. Like I was so creative on it, you know? So I was like, man, this is awesome. Just kept doing it and doing it. But me, I've always been that obsessive alcoholic drug addict, you know? It's not like I can just do it on a Friday. I need to go like all day, every day, you know? So like I just couldn't stop doing meth, you know what I mean? No matter what. Like financially, I started struggling, you know, my relationship started struggling. Like I didn't see that. And it wasn't until I started suffering from psychosis, like meth induced, and then it became prolonged. Like that was the crazy thing. Like I'd stop doing drugs and I'd still be hearing voices and seeing things. I really went off, you know? Like I remember just like self-mutilating, because I remember the voices telling me, hey, if you cut yourself, we'll show ourselves, and then you can say for certain that, you know, it's like weird things going on in my head, you know what I mean? And finally I remember one time, like I was in the bathtub and I had a knife with me, and I was like someone told me, stab yourself in the throat. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what is that, you know? And I was like, man, I was about to do it, but I didn't. I just kind of stabbed myself in the arm. And then next thing you know, I hear a knock on the door, and I'm like, finally, like, everything's gonna be revealed. I knew this was happening. I knew I was being like followed by, who knows, I thought it was like ninjas, the FBI, like just the most random stuff, you know what I mean? And I opened the door and it was the cops. And I was like, what the heck? And I guess my grandma had seen me go into the restroom with that knife, you know, and luckily she called the cops. So after that, I got put on a 5150 hold right here in Anaheim. I'm telling you, man, this was the city of my destruction, you know. So I was a 5150 hold with all, you know, in that wing. And I just remember like just thinking, I don't know, for a second, I just thought, man, like I don't know if this is real or fake, you know, like what's going on. And when I got released, like a week later, my mom sent me to a rehab, and I had to go to a completely other country. Like, so I went to Guanajuato to this treatment center, and I did 6 months there. They told me I was only gonna go for an assessment. And this was an intensive program. It was like lockdown the whole time, you know, everything. And I just remember like my mind like started kind of healing. What really did it, like I said a prayer, you know, for like the first time in my life, because even when I was in my drug addiction, I was listening to like black metal and death metal and going to concerts, you know what I mean, and just doing all kinds of craziness to like, you know, witchcraft, and I was messing with like dark arts and, you know, satanic Bibles and all of that. Like I wanted nothing to do with God, you know. And I remember just saying a prayer, and I just said, God, like I never doubted God, I just kind of doubted that I was ever loved by God. I just said, if you love me, if you care, like, please tell me, is this all in my head or is this really happening? And that night I had a dream, man. It was like the craziest thing, you know, and I just remember I walked into a kitchen, and there was like a woman baking, and she was baking something, and she pulled something out of the oven, and then she caught me like standing there at the corner of the eye. She came up to me and she caressed my face, and she goes, mijo, you're going crazy. It's all in your head. And then I woke up, and then after that, like my brain started untangling itself from the psychosis, you know. So I would say that don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no shame in it. You know, I know sometimes when we're in our active addiction, there's a lot of guilt that comes with it, a lot of shame. We feel like we can't talk about it, but don't be afraid to ask somebody for help. You know, ask somebody to just somebody to talk to. Maybe even just go to a treatment center. You know, I had to do it. I had no plan of going to a treatment center, but I can honestly say that I needed it. You know, I needed to be in there, you know. And like I said, I only thought I was gonna be there for 2 weeks, and I ended up being there for 6 months. But I needed that. The way that I was, the way that my drug use had spiraled out of control, I just knew that that was the best course of action at the time for me.